Since 1987, the Hall of Fame has inducted over 150 Marin women of distinction, women who have made immense contributions to the county of Marin and its residents, as well as to the world beyond. Honorees have distinguished themselves in many fields: education, science, business, philanthropy, the arts, politics, law, philosophy, and religion. Each honoree has been a force for positive change in our community. It is a great privilege to acknowledge and document their contributions. Today, it's my great pleasure to introduce Leslie Murphy, who's being honored in 2023 for her pioneering work in business. So welcome.
Oh, thank you.
It's great to have you here. And let's begin with your telling us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Joan. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, so thank you for having me. I would say that I'm a mom. I like to think of that first, of two wonderful adult sons, and I'm married to an extremely supportive husband of 31 years. And I'm also a CEO and owner of W. Bradley Electric, or have been for 38 years. We have volumes. To give you an idea, our volume is anywhere from 125 million to 145 million the last couple years, 300 to 400 employees. So that keeps me pretty busy. And then when I'm not busy, I love running and hiking and yoga, meditation, and I'm a nut for sports, just super competitive, so all those Bay Area teams that keep winning, it's been fabulous. And also love to read. So shout out to my book club, love to read, and and study business, like every day, study business.
Well, that's great. We'd love to hear about your family, what your childhood was like, and who the people who inspired you and helped shape you.
Sure, yeah, thank you. So I was born in San Francisco and moved up to Marin, moved up to actually Novato when I was 4 years old, into San Marin development area. It was brand new, and families were just flocking there. There were so many kids. So I was fortunate to grow up on a block with about 20 homes. Called it the Court, and in that there was just a whole bunch of kids my age. So absolutely loved that. My dad worked in San Francisco as an electrician. He'd commute back and had plenty of time for Little League coach and things like that he'd be involved in with us in our lives. And my mom was at home with us. So she was tremendous. She, Girl Scout leader, volunteered in the classrooms and just all over the place, driving us around, so she was great. And then on the weekends, we were my dad's apprentices. So that started at a very early age, when we couldn't afford anything. So my dad couldn't afford a wheelbarrow, so he had 4 kids to go back and forth, between moving the rocks or whatever it was in the backyard. That's how we started. And then from there, we got to learning how to use power tools in elementary school. So he had us, and we got to do additions on the house. And me and my brother built a hot house one year for my mom in the summer. We just had so much fun doing all of that kind of crazy stuff. And then we wanted a pool. So my dad told us we had to dig our pool. So you guys spend all summer, you got to dig your own pool, right? So sure enough, us 4 kids, again, we're in elementary school. So we're 4 future business owners. So we kind of figured out to enlist the rest of the neighborhood.
Did you know that at that age?
Looking back, I can see we were pretty smart to figure this out, because we weren't going to get that pool dug that summer. So we enlisted the other kids. We gave them lemonade, cookies, whatever it was, put shovels in their hand, and yes, we dug our pool out.
So did you assume at that age that you 4 would go into the business?
No, not then, but I'm looking back in it now and saying, hey, we were pretty smart to figure that out and enlist that help, which we did, which was great. So, and in the neighborhood, mostly it was boys. There was like 4 of us girls and the rest were all boys. So grew up doing a lot of sports and games with the boys, and that was kind of a natural thing to do. And then the girls did not have sports in those days. We had dance and gymnastics, right? They weren't offered. So Title IX came out while I was in that elementary school age. Little League, I tried to sign up for Little League. My dad went with me. They wouldn't let me sign up that year. They did let them in the next year, but I was aged out then. So I was able to get on the 6th grade boys basketball team. So that's where I was able to do it. I did love basketball. So it didn't turn out the way I had planned because I was the only girl on the team, and I was being harassed, right? They didn't want me on the team. I don't blame them because I was actually the only girl in the league. So they would get made fun of when they would go to the games. You know, other teams would make fun of us. So, you know, one day I was at practice and a couple boys threw a basketball and hit me in the head, right? So I didn't cry then, but when my dad came and picked me up, I cried. So, and I let him know I want to quit. I don't want to play anymore with these boys, right? And my dad talked me into staying. So he said, Les, it'll be okay. You know, you got to stick this out. You really love this. Stick it out, and I promise it'll be okay. What I didn't know is my dad went and had my older brother go out and talk to those boys. The old school worked, right? So I had no problems the rest of that league, but I did learn that lesson of not quitting, right? It got tough, and I didn't quit. So that was actually a very helpful lesson for me in life. And then the other thing is my dad had way before his time, a bring your daughter to work day. So I got to skip school, my 6th grade, and go in with him to the San Francisco. And he was a general foreman at that time, running a very large project. 29 stories high, and I came in for the day. I was able to, we started in the trailer rolling out plans. I remember everything about that day, and him walking me through it and showing me what it was like. And then we went floor by floor, walking through and comparing the plans and seeing how that worked. And there was a construction elevator that took us up, you know, so many floors, and then after that we ended up going to ladders all the way up, and then around the perimeter was just a rope. So, you know, that was fast. That was so much fun, and my mom did not appreciate that story when we came home that night. But in looking back at that day, I absolutely loved that day. I loved the construction. There was something about it that was just fascinating and fun, and but there was just, I saw one female that whole time, and she was working in the food truck. So there was no females on that job site. There was no females anywhere. And that just was something that stuck in me, you know, stayed in there. You know, now you come in, and I will say, the other day I got the best compliment I've ever had on a job site, because there was a problem that I won't get into what the problem was, but they saw me walking the job, came up and asked me if I was the superintendent. And to circle back and to be called the superintendent, I mean, because that's the person that knows everything going on that job, right? Yeah. It was tremendous. So it was really cool. And then your question on what who inspired me? Definitely my parents. My parents were over the top, really made sure that gender did not play a part in stopping me or find ways around it. And an example of this, I'll give you, because we had our chores, we had our weekly chores, and they were very traditional. So the girls would wash their dishes, you know, do the laundry and clean the house, right? And the boys would mow the lawns and take out the garbage. And they mow the lawns once a week, and I had 2 brothers, and they would swap that. So I was 11 years old, and I was learning how to golf, and I went into the backyard, and the lawn was pretty long, so I said, you know, went to my brother and said, hey, you gotta go mow the lawn, I'm trying to golf out here. And he says, no, I'm not gonna do that today. So I started the lawnmower and mowed the lawn. It didn't seem that difficult. Then I came in and talked to my parents and said, hey, since my brother since he didn't mow the lawn, I go, and I did his chores, I think he should have to do my chores for the week, right? And then my parents went back and had a private conversation. They come back and said, well, we decided that you guys from now on will split your chores. And so the boys will do yours and the girls would do that. And me and my sister, man, we rocked it. We just scored that day so big. So it was incredible. And then the last thing I'll say on that, I also happened to grow up in a neighborhood, again, 20 homes like we talked about, 3 citizens, Novato Citizens of the Year on one block. What a jackpot. And I didn't know that at the time. You have no idea what that even means, but they were incredible. So they gave back to the community and volunteered and did all that, and we did that with them. So we'd do spaghetti feeds and pancake breakfast and all that kind of stuff. And it was Ed Lathrop, he has passed away, and Vicki and Bill McDill. Those were our 3 citizens and of the year. And then Ed asked me in my 20s to join Kiwanis of Novato. And at that time, it was the very first time they let females in. So I was their token female, but I loved it, and that got me into the nonprofit world.
So you've been the token female in a number of instances, and clearly your parents were very egalitarian. And how were your brothers? Were they egalitarian too?
Yeah, my brothers accepted it all, right? And they've been very supportive of me. But yeah, I'm sure at that time when they had to do our chores, they probably weren't that happy with it. But they also grew up with my parents, so.
So when we talked earlier, you said something that just jumped out at me. And it was that your parents really supported the girls going to college and the boys going into business and directly out of high school.
Yeah.
To me, that seemed a reverse of typically what I've heard in families.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and how the boys felt about it and how you felt about it?
Sure, yeah. I can't say how they felt about it. They were going into the trades. So that was, me and my sister, somewhere from middle school to high school, we were being told we were going to go to college, the 2 of us, right? And my brothers, they didn't have the same grades we had. We were working probably a little harder than them in school. But they were going into the trades, right? So, and that is where they, went to right after high school. And me and my sister both went on to college, so. Yeah.
And so when you were going to college, was it your expectation that you were going to college so that you would be going into the business?
So, well, depends on whose expectation. So my expectation was that I was going into college and I was going to study business, and from there I would end up I was thinking of some corporate thing once I got through college. And then instead my dad asked me, said, no, Leslie, why don't you join the family business, right? Just for a few years, right? So 38 years later, still there, yeah.
So right after college, you went into the family business?
Yes.
So like you graduated and you started 2 weeks later kind of thing?
Yes, exactly.
And where did you start? You're now CEO, no, you're chairman of the board. What are you now?
Yeah, okay.
We were
question.
CEO a couple months ago. What are you?
We were, yeah. Do you want me to jump on that? Because, so I am now chairman of the board. And I can explain that,
Okay.
a little
So
bit
what
later,
I'd like to know is 2 weeks out of college, you begin in the company, you've gone all the way through CEO and now chairman of the board. I'd kind of like to know where you began and what your experiences were in those, because I'm still thinking that this is a male dominated deal.
It is a male dominated deal for sure. Yeah, there's 95% males in just our company. So yes, I started back in high school. Actually, my dad started the business in 1977, so I was still in high school. And when my brother graduated, he went into the field, so he was working residential. He would pick me up sometimes after work, and I would go out and be his apprentice. So I was learning how to pull.
When you were in high school? High school,
learning how to pull wire, make up switches, things like that, right? And then when I was in college, I did spend one summer driving truck. So the bigger the vehicle, the better. I still love big vehicles. I absolutely love that job. And I would pick up material at the wholesale houses and bring them all over the Bay Area to different job sites, right? It wasn't as easy carrying the material up, having to get material carts and figure all that out. But it was a fun experience.
And nobody helped you, you just did it?
Usually I would find some help, but no, I had some San Francisco ones that they would not help. It wasn't their job to help, so you had to get it up to the floor. So I would do that, and then from there, I did come after college, start up and learned how to do accounting and math. My math came easy to me because I was actually top of my class a lot of times in math. So the accounting and estimating is what came easy. And then the rest of the stuff I had to learn the trade and the rest of that from other people, right? And And then from there, I became the general manager. My dad put me in there in the 20s. I was in my 20s as the general manager. And
what did that entail?
so that was overseeing all the day-to-day stuff at that point. And
Was that scheduling and that kind of thing?
oh yeah, it was. We had the manpower scheduling and all that stuff going, and estimating everything, kind of reported up to where I was at. And but you had to earn that, right? So people don't respect you unless you earn it. So
Right.
I made sure that I earned that spot. And so then in 1999, my dad retired, and at that point, I was the CEO, and so it was in my eyes, a sink or swim situation, because I didn't have my dad as the safety net anymore. And then from there, I swam, obviously, and was successful. But I think that's because he set me up. He set me up to success. And then in 2009, I bought my brother out, so he left and retired. And then we became woman-owned. So at that point was 100% woman-owned, and sitting in that seat.
And did you love the seat?
Oh, I did. Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's amazing. I mean, I
thanks.
love it. I love that there's no sense of entitlement.
No.
That you really worked all the way through the company.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure that that's contributed to the tremendous respect that the employees have for you, because it's not an abstract notion. It's that you've been there, you've done it.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about a memorable moment in your life that changed the direction of your work or your life? Is there one or two experiences? You talked a little bit when you got involved with the Moms Against
Oh yeah.
Drunk driving.
There's a few things. Yeah, I'll share that story with
Thank
you. Yes. So when I was up at college, loving my business classes, right? I loved all that. In 1980, that's when I started up there. And
Up there
in
is-
Sacramento State. I was also. Can I go back for a
Please.
second? So when I left high school, right, I had to pick out college, right, and I was the first in the family to go to college, so I had no clue about that. Thank God they have high school counselors for first people coming out and going into college. So my counselor, Mr. Moody, helped me pick that out. Went to Sac State. It was a fabulous business school up there for me. And when I was up there, so 1980 is when Mothers Against Drunk Driving started up there, and they came to the campus, and I attended a meeting, and from that moment I was an advocate for nobody driving drunk, and it was really important for me to do that. And at that point in my life, I had not drank alcohol at all, no substance. And my girlfriends actually defended me for that. It's not like I had friends, all my friends drank at that point, but they would defend me. They were very supportive and stuff. It was wonderful. And I went into a drama class where my teacher was turning 40 that day, and there was about 100 of us in the room, and he said, that he announced that he has never had a drink in his life, and that he's had a clean life and a good life, and you don't have to drink to have this kind of a life. And out of those 100 students, I really don't know how many were listening, but I was at that point 18 years old, and I hadn't drank, and I thought, well, wouldn't that be cool if I could make it to 40, right? And so here I am today, 61, and have never had alcohol, and all my friends and family know that, and no substance abuse, or not abuse, but no substance either, so nothing.
Why did you attend the meeting?
The Mothers Against Drunk Driving, It spoke to me. I mean, she had lost her child, and it was awful, and there was something not right in our society, I mean, I've seen it, I've seen the kids driving and drinking, and I'm a sober driver, right? So I can drive everybody, right? At that point, I've been doing it for years, until Uber took over.
What are you most proud of in your life?
Great question.
You can say more than one thing.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'm most proud of being a mom. So I have two wonderful adult sons, Sean and Kyle, and they make me a better person. From the day they were born, they made me a better person, and I absolutely adore both of them. They're different and unique in their own ways. Sean's an engineer, so he loves to problem solve, and his mom always has problems, so he's always helping me solve problems. And he's got this diplomatic way about him, so that we're an Irish family, so we'll have a lot of disagreements, right? So as we're having those disagreements, Sean will summarize it later, and we all win, right? Yeah. We all feel like we won.
Oh, isn't that great?
Oh, he's fabulous, right? And then my other son, Kyle, he's the free spirit adventurer, live in the present mom, live in the present with me, right? And he gets me to do things I don't think I would ever do, right? So it's just repelling waterfalls and things like that with him, but they both turned out to be such warm, giving, wonderful young men.
And that's not an accident.
No, so I'm very proud of that. And actually the same year I had Sean, I was 30 years old, and my mom passed away. Ooh. So I was 5 months pregnant when we lost my mom to breast cancer, and it was devastating. Yeah. I thought I was just going to absolutely crumble because she was my complete world, right? And then instead, this inner strength came, and I like to think that was her helping me grieve and be able to go through the childbirth and raise my son at that age.
And neither one of them is in the business.
Nope, neither are in the business.
Did you invite either of them in?
Yes, they both have worked there multiple times doing different things like I did through college, doing different things, and then even after. And my son Kyle will still film some job sites and things like that for us, but yeah.
Great. You've had mentors in your life. Mm-hmm. Can you share with us what was most helpful to you in being mentored? And you've clearly mentored others. So what are the intangibles and the tangibles about mentorship?
Sure, yeah. Let me first give you a couple of my mentors so you get an idea of how I was mentored. Definitely my dad, hands down, is my mentor for everything. And he taught me the business inside and out, how you're gonna handle customers, how you're gonna do meetings, all of that I got from him. Good business sense, able to think on your feet, right? And then my mom was the next one that I learned the soft skills. So she gave me the soft skills, so the caring and the including and the loving. And yes, Joan, loving comes into business. You know, it does. It's part of the business world. I think as a female, I get to do that a little bit more, but it's important. All of those soft skills belong in businesses and organizations, I believe. And she brought that to me and mentored through that. And then, of course, I had the 3 Citizens of the Year that showed me how to do philanthropy and community involvement, and then all the different seasonal electricians that helped me too, right? So I always had that, and so to turn around and see that piece is so important, because when you're being coached or you're being mentored, there's a lot of times you don't have that confidence, you don't have something that's missing, and you're not sure what it is, and they're going to help you with that. That's what helps, right? So it's not just it's clearing your path and learning how to do that. So I've had some great mentors. I've learned how to be a much better mentor now.
What would you say are 2 or 3 specific things that, as a mentor, that how you can mentor someone?
Well, number one, you have to be engaged in their life and their profession, right? You got to care about it, but you also have to listen. You can't steer. You can help guide, but you got to ask a lot of questions as a mentor. You have to ask a lot of questions, and that where they want to go, right? That's what's important. And if there's obstacles and roadblocks, you want to show them how to get through those. You want to show them that it's possible to get past all that. So you've built a career in a predominantly male-dominated world. Do you have any advice or insight how we can collectively inspire the next generation of women leaders, whether they're working primarily with men or women, or what age? Just
what would you say?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's really important for women leaders to be in there because, you know, I sit on the you know, for a male-dominated area, right? 95% males in our company, and across the construction industry, that is just very normal.
Have you done anything to try to recruit women?
Oh yeah, we do
Done
try
a lot of
very
affirmative-
hard trying to recruit women and bring them in. And we like to think we're pretty successful at it, right? And it's important to have them come into that. There's a lot they offer the company, and the more that they're embedded in that, it's better, right? We have a few female executives too. So to answer your question, you know, WB, we're 95% male, like I had said before, and that is, you know, according to the average, you know, we're right in there. We're a little better than the average for the rest of the construction industry. And we are the 4th largest woman-owned business in the whole Bay Area, right? But I'm more proud of, we are the 5th largest electrical contractor in the Bay Area. And there's also no other, on that list, there's no other women-owned businesses on that electrical contractor. There's no other women CEOs, right? So for me, that's, you know, competing with the rest of the world, not just the females, right? And that's what I love and proud of. But I also look at it and say, I'm not the only one out there.
Yes.
I'm not the only one out there that would want to be in this position, right? So there's got to be other people that want to thrive to be that. So how can women get into those leadership roles? Why aren't they in those leadership roles? And shouldn't they be in those leadership roles? And when I was a kid, there's not as many in those leadership roles. Now we look and we've got a vice president in the White House. We have a 5-star general, and which is incredible, right? And then, since I love sports, we have female NBA refs, and we actually have the first MLB coach right here in San Francisco
Yes, we
Giants,
do.
right? So it's pretty exciting to have those out there for role models for us to see. And what stops somebody from getting into that role, right? You know, the mentors can help them dream big, because that's one of the issues, I think, is not dreaming big enough, or not seeing that, and coming in an entry-level position and not realizing you can, you know, so many years later be at that top and having that ambition. So I think that that is something that is there. I think the work-life balance has played a part in this too. So you have all sorts of ways that employers now can handle that with, you know, you got work from home, flex time, PTOs. It's also important to realize too, if a female is gone from work and stays at home, that 70% of those come back to work. So if you're training them in your field and they leave for some years, there's a good chance they're coming back to you, right? So another reason to hang in there. And then I think the other thing is just, you know, as my son Kyle would say, put yourself first, right? And I never got good at that, but I'll put myself on the list. That's why I look at it. I'm on the list. So, but having that and being a part of that list, because I was blessed with a husband that stayed home for 10 years and took care of the kids, right? And my kids were better off from having that experience of having their dad at home. They were the only ones in the school to have their dad at home with them back at that age, right? That wasn't being done. And, you know, my husband, he was a stickler on the homework, so he'd been much better than me at that. But he'd get down there and, you know, do lightsaber fights and video games and all that stuff. So all the boys wanted to play over at our house, right? So it was a great experience. And I still got to volunteer in the classroom, drop the kids off. There's just ways families can figure that out.
Much more flexibility.
Yeah.
Much
And
more
so I just think that's really important that people figure that out.
Great. I think it is the #1 challenge.
Yeah.
I think for women with families and work is to how that can work in a productive way that's supportive for all members of the family. So when we talked before, philanthropy came up a lot, and we haven't circled back to that. And I'd love to hear kind of what you've done with philanthropy. I mean, I'm getting it from your childhood and in this wonderful group of 20 homes and the 3 Novato Citizens of the Year and so on, the giving and so on. But I also know you've incorporated it into your business. So could you talk just briefly a little bit about that?
Sure,
I think that's really fascinating.
Good, I would love to. Yes, thank you. So when in 2009, when I had this, I'm the CEO and the only owner at that time, I was able to bring in some of my core values, right? So, and one of those was the giving. So brought in that giving area, and we put a team together, and they were a giving committee. So their job was to, educate all the employees and figure out where money's going to go, right? And they still are doing that to this day. And then we have another committee that came up, actually my sister-in-law who works at the company too, Kathleen, started a Random Acts of Kindness committee. And so it's fabulous. Oh my gosh. So the Random Acts of Kindness could be anything. They come up with whatever they want. They get a budget for the year. So they'll be there at holiday time. Sometimes they'll go into a Safeway and pay for different carts of food or whatever's in the cart. They'll go to, when gas went up, they went to the gas station and we're paying for people's gas, a tank of gas, right? They'll go bake goods and bring to the firehouse.
This committee, or
this committee goes and does this. They have the budget for their year from WBE, and they go do this. And then, they'll go to the park. They'll clean up the park, and they'll pass out toys to kids that are there. They just come up with whatever it is, and they go out and do it. And it's just been, everybody loves it. I mean, we all love it. We all love to hear about it. Their job is to tell everybody what they've been doing, and it makes us all feel good about our work. And then the last piece, which was an important piece that we did, which was a little on the crazy side, but we wanted to get the customers involved. We wanted because they're the customers, we have beautiful, wonderful customers, about 300, 400 of these, and we wanted them to be a part of this, right? So we ended up, at the holiday time, we have themes of gifts, right? And so our theme, like this, last year was child hunger. The year before that was foster kids. The first one we did was homeless. And to give you an idea, for homeless, we gave our customers backpacks loaded with goodies for homeless and asked them to go find a homeless person to give this to. Now, not everybody does that. That was a big risk for us, right? Giving that gift to our clients, and then their job was to circle back and tell us what that felt like.
So you're taking it out into the community.
Mm-hmm. So we're taking it out in the community, and it was amazing of what came back from us for that. It was absolutely amazing. So from there, we just kept going and going and coming up with more and more things that we would do. And part of that is we also do a donation. So they can pick, our client can pick a charity of their choice that they would like to give that to, or stick with our theme. And so I'm proud to say in the last 6 years, we've given away $2 million, over $2 million at this point. So, but how many lives have we actually touched is a whole nother thing that you're very, very excited about. And I got a lot of passion around that. So
it gives me goosebumps.
Oh,
it's just,
thanks, John.
Yeah, that is so creative and so impactful.
Yeah.
And I love that it involves not only people in the community, but your customers, because I think that opens their horizons. So when we were talking before, you talked about the love that you have for your employees. And it's hard for me to imagine a male CEO talking about the love of his employees. And I'm wondering if you could talk about that, how the employees respond to that, and how that impacts your business and how you work together.
And I would love males to be able to find that word and use that, right? And our WB family is extremely, means so much to me, right? So I do love them, right? You can't work with people for 10, 20, 30, 40 years and you don't just love the heck out of them, right? And they know it. They know it. Like my executive team, I tell them, I love you. You don't have to say it back to me. It can be uncomfortable. You don't have to say it, but I'm comfortable letting people know that, because it is that important. It's in your heart, and it is who you are. And so if you're bringing yourself to work, that's what you're bringing to work, right? Your authentic self, and you're allowed to love at work. You should be allowed to love.
You've had so many accomplishments. What of all of it, what would you like kind of your legacy to be thought of to be?
It's a great question. So as I was saying, I was the CEO for many, many years, and and brought a partner in, Todd Baker, a 20% partner my last 6 years. He's been with the company 20 years. He's taken over at the end of this year as CEO, and I transitioned to chairman of the board. And as we did that transition, there was, what do we do with the company, right? So you can sell to the outside. There's lots of options out there to do. And the one that touched my heart, and I am blessed to have a partner that agreed to be the CEO for the next 10 plus years, was to sell to the employees. So we did an ESOP, selling 100% to the employees. And I'm going to stay on to make sure that works really well. But an ESOP it's an incredible tool to have.
Can you tell what ESOP stands for?
Sure, Employee Stock Ownership Plan. And
Thank you.
Instead of, you have a 401k, we'll always have a 401k, but an ESOP is 3 to 7 times, averages 3 to 7 times more than a 401k plan is what the employees will get as they retire. So that is life-changing, right? Mm-hmm. When you could do something even to say 5 times of that 401k when you get out, that's incredible. And so it just feels good all the way around for my heart, and to see that happen. So that legacy, hopefully it all works and I can be out here, which I'd love to do, is coaching other people and telling them about this and seeing other employees that are looking at, transitioning and just looking at this option. It is complicated, but once you go through it, it is so worth it at the end to do something like this. And I think that's what I'd love to be, that legacy, right? And just in giving back too. I hope to get involved in a lot of areas now they'll have a little bit more free time to help.
This has been a fabulous conversation. Thank you so much. I'm sure that the people out in watching this have learned a lot. Thank you so much for sharing stories from your incredible life and for tuning in. People out there, the Marin Women's Hall of Fame is a project of the YWCA Golden Gate, Silicon Valley. If you would like to learn more about the Hall of Fame and our honorees, please visit www.yourywca.org. Thank you so much for tuning in.